Welcome to the show. Welcome to Game Day Weekend. Home opening weekend for Notre Dame is finally here, and we are getting ready for it. I mean, it is going to be massive. Not just a night game, Notre Dame and Texas A&M, a couple of ranked teams, 7:30 Saturday night at Notre Dame Stadium. But I don't know where they're going to put all these recruits that are coming into town.
At the stadium.
Yes. That's right, and that's what we're going to start the show with today. We've got a lot of Texas A&M Notre Dame preview that we'll do in a little bit, but we're starting the show. Bryan Driskell, our man from IrishBreakdown.com, of course, the publisher, the owner. Any other titles that go along with that? I might have asked you the last time.
All around good guy is what I like to continue to tell myself. True or not, that's what I tell myself.
We always tell ourselves that, don't we?
Hope so.
Yeah, that's right. We try, convince ourselves. I tell you what, I'm going to start with, because this is such a big recruiting weekend for Notre Dame, I've got a quick soundbite from Marcus Freeman. He was asked about it in his Zoom call yesterday. So I'll start with that, and then Bryan and I will discuss.
Yeah, they've done a tremendous job of developing relationships with these young guys, the families. We're going to have a lot of our commits here and a lot of, younger guys that, are interested in Notre Dame football. And it speaks volumes to the program, the team, the opponent that we're having, right? They want to be at the game where you're facing a top-tier opponent. And so, again, this is a group effort, and our personnel staff has done a tremendous job. Our football program has put ourselves in a place where, a lot of top recruits want to come see us play. And so the best recruiting we can do is put on a good performance.
So there's Marcus Freeman talking about this big recruiting weekend, and I didn't set it up exactly right. He was asked about how his staff has put together this big recruiting weekend. And, Bryan, they've got a relatively new recruiting staff that's kind of in place since Chad Bowden left, right? You're muted again.
This has been kind of something that's been building for a while. Like, these type of big weekends don't happen because on September 1st, they started calling kids saying, hey, you want to come to Notre Dame this weekend? Like, some of this started back when these guys visited during the spring. And that's a big part of this, Sean, because they're not all, but a lot of these kids visited in the spring. Cameron Wagner's been on campus multiple times. They had Braden Parks and Devin Robertson on campus at Irish Invasion. And you start building those relationships then. I think the Notre Dame coaches have done a great job doing well, and even better job building relationships than maybe they did in the past, where a lot of that fell on Chad Bowden's shoulders. And then, Carter Allman, who's one of the holdovers from the previous regime, I think did a great job of helping the new guys, Jordan Blake and Myron Tungavaloa, and to a degree, Mike Martin, kind of get comfortable and get rolling. And that's played a big role. But look, you come to a place like Notre Dame, you got to grow up fast kind of thing into your role. And,
Sure.
Jordan Blake's going to need time to get comfortable in that role. But you got to figure it out pretty quick, man. You can't sacrifice the recruiting class. And we hear that it has. And Myron Tungavaloa-Mosa, former Notre Dame player, I think it was an easier transition for him because he knows how to sell Notre Dame, because he's just sharing his life, his experiences. Like, look, this is what it did for me. Why do you think I'm back here? I hated it at Notre Dame. I hated it in South Bend, but I'm going to go back there because they offered me a job. It's like, no, he loves it. He lived it. And I think that's really what it comes down to. But, he made a comment in there and about, look, what they did on the field last year is just going to naturally open up more opportunities for them to get some of these guys on campus. But, his staff has worked very hard, Sean, and the recruiting staff especially, who are new, to get comfortable and get acclimated with the players on these boards and the ability to kind of put all this together, and had very few cancellations this week. Like, very few. Normally there's like 10 to 12 in a weekend like this. 10 to 12 kids, like, last minute won't come. Well, I got an updated list today, and there was like 4 kids off of it and 3 new kids on it. I mean, it's really impressive what they're doing right now.
I counted, based on the list that you put up on the Champions Lounge today, 70+ visitors, like
Right.
Whether they're commits or uncommitted. Is this the largest overall visitor list that you can remember?
It's the largest visitor list of this caliber player. They've actually had a weekends, several, where you get 60, 70 kids. because you get like local kids that you're not recruiting, but it's just like, hey, we're throwing a bone to this staff. We're going to let this kid come on campus. I've seen some kids walk in as quote unquote recruits that you're like, I don't know that I'd recruit that kid, like to Valpo. It just, but I'm being somewhat hyperbolic, but it's about relationship building. You're trying to build a relationship with those schools. These kids want to come and, and they're not, and they, hey, look, I visited Notre Dame. They do it as a favor. Cause then that, maybe some other schools will then take interest. This is such a high level of quality players, Sean, in the 27 and 28 classes. And then of course, 21 of the visitors are actually, I think 22, 23 of the visitors are commits, which is a great resource also with all these high-level players coming on campus. And the other thing, too, that's unique about it, Sean, is there's kids coming in from California that are big-time players, kids coming in from Georgia, kids coming in from Florida. They're coming in from all over. Big-time DB, 2 big-time DBs from the state of North Carolina. So I can't say it enough. It's an impressive group of players. It's a balanced group of players. They're kind of hitting all the big positions. There's, I think, 4 players visiting this weekend that are top 10 overall national recruits in their respective classes. It's a very impressive group. And at the end, he said, now we got to put on a good show for them on the field. And that's going to obviously be a big part of this.
And they're bringing in the majority of their class, the current 2026 class. So
there's several, so Joey O'Brien won't be there. Grayson McHugh won't be there. Kari Adams won't be there. Charlie Tom won't be there because they all have Saturday games. Right. So they play on Saturday, so they won't be able to make it. And then Jacoby Clapper and Elijah Golden aren't going to be there. I expect them to be there for the USC game. Just travel, sometimes travel things. But yeah, the majority, and 2 of their 3 2027 commits, Teddy Gerard will be there, and Ellis McGaskin will be there, the linebacker commit. I think Sean Kraft is the only one that won't be there. So, it's the vast majority of your 2025, 2026, and 2027 classes will be there. It's a big group.
So what's this weekend for the guys who are committed then? Well,
there's several things that go into that, Sean. Number one is obviously getting back. They say, hey, I'm going home this weekend, getting back, getting a chance to see them. We were talking about this earlier in our show. There's several commits that have never been to a game before. Javion Osborne's never been to a game before. Jonas Walton's never been to a game before. So, that I don't think Bubba Frazier's been to a game before. So this is their first chance to kind of experience the game day atmosphere. It's a chance to continue their conversations with the coaches, get to know each other. It's a very big building experience, but they're also being brought in, and they understand this because you're being used as resources for the kids that we're trying to add in the 2027 class. Like, you're going to help, you're bringing in Teddy Gerard, who's committed in the 27 class. Why? Because you have 3 elite wide receivers on campus this weekend. Well, yeah, you're going to bring in both of your quarterback commits to kind of help recruit those guys onto campus,
Yeah.
And that's a big part of it as well. You're bringing in Mark Matthews, who's one of the absolute best players in the 2027 class, regardless of position. He's a top 10 national player. He's also an offensive lineman. You want him spending time with Tyler Merrill and Sullivan Garvin and Ben Nichols and Gregory Patrick, because those relationships are going to be so important to landing those players. So they're being brought in not only for their own benefit, but they also understand we're being brought in to help recruit. And that's one of the ways that you can manage such a large group of recruits, is because you don't have enough staffers to be with everybody. But between the staffers and the recruits, you've got parents. I promise you there will be parents, moms, and dads. Sullivan Garvin's mom is one of the best recruiters they have. She's going to be here this weekend, and they do a great job of answering questions for parents and things along those lines. And it's really a well-oiled machine, the way that they've done it really since the spring.
Is she the one who always tweets about Sully?
Yes.
Okay, I see a lot of her tweets floating around.
But she does a great job because she talks to parents. She shares their experience, what they've learned about Notre Dame, why they sent their kid there, what questions do you have, things that she's been able to get answered already. She can answer for parents, and those things help a ton when you've got parents on campus. So it's not just the kids showing up. There will be parents on campus as well. That will certainly be assets when it comes to just continuing to sell what Notre Dame is trying to accomplish.
You touched on big-time receivers. It's Quentin Burrell, Monson Sales, Julius Jones Jr., of course, son of Julius Jones Sr., a legacy there, more legacies. But these 3 are big-time guys, right?
Absolutely. And there's a talented player from North Carolina named A.J. Roberts also coming in town. He's a kind of a top 150 caliber player, but Quentin Burrell he's from Mount Carmel in Chicago. He's a top 50 national recruit. And when you have a wide receiver who's 6'3", who's talented, who's very, very good at the Irish Invasion this summer, who's from Chicago, that's a top 50 national recruit. That's a must-get player, Sean. I mean, that's the kind of kid you've got to be able to land. You can't keep losing these guys like him to Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Clemson, Georgia. You've got to land those players, and Quentin Burrell's a must-get for Mike Brown, who's coming off of landing an outstanding class of 2026. You've got to land him. And Munchin Sales is from Indiana. Now, he doesn't have as much interest in Notre Dame as the others so far. But, hey, if you get him to campus, Sean, you never know what's going to happen. There's guys – when Javian Osborne committed or visited this summer, I told people, I said, look, guys, I've talked to all my sources in Notre Dame. They don't think they have much of a shot at him. He came to campus and absolutely fell in love with Notre Dame and was committed in a month. I mean, it happens sometimes. And I still remember a story. There's a linebacker that Notre Dame lost, Etienne Sabino, all the way back when I think Charlie Weiss was here. Notre Dame was his leader. He came to campus, hated it, ended up signing with Ohio State. I mean, those things happen. You never know. So you got to get him on campus. And, I think so that's a big one. And then, of course, you have Julius Jones Jr., who is being recruited not because he's Julius Jones Jr. He's being recruited because he's a top 50 national player. That's a big-time wide receiver. That's a high academic kid that plays at St. Thomas Aquinas in Fort Lauderdale. And they would have recruited him no matter what, but the fact that his dad is Julius Jones Sr., it does put a little bit more pressure on Notre Dame to land a kid like that. But yeah, I look at it like this, Sean. If you get 2 of those 3 kids in this class, that's a big-time class, which means you've now stacked 2 classes in a row of big-time talent receiver. That's what Mike Brown has to start doing, which makes that 27 class so important. But, hey, you're getting him on campus. That's the important thing.
Defensive linemen as well. Some big defensive linemen, big-time defensive linemen coming in, and a chance for Al Washington to kind of keep his current role going, right?
Yeah, we talked about that. I think it was last week when you had me on, Sean. We talked about the class that Al Washington put together on the D-line. It's an elite class. It's my opinion, the best D-line class they had since the 2011 class that had Aaron Lynch and Stephon Tuitt and Ishaq Williams. But hey, to be a great recruiting operation, Ohio State doesn't have a class like that. They do that every year. Georgia does that every year, and that's what Al Washington's trying to build at Notre Dame. And the group he's got coming on this weekend is absolutely outstanding, Sean. I mean, you start off with David Jacobs, who's actually he's a top 20 national player, elite 5-star type of player. He also happens to be longtime friends with Teddy Gerard. They played Pop Warner football together. So that's one of those things that can help you out a little bit. But he was interested in Notre Dame even before Teddy Gerard seemed like a likely option at quarterback. So that's important, getting him on campus. His younger brother, Dawson, who's also a top 150 caliber player in the 28 class, is going to be visiting this weekend. But he's the kind of 6'5", 225, elite, twitchy, explosive athlete that they really haven't landed since you probably go back to like maybe Aaron Lynch, where they've gotten guys like that. Now you're hoping you can get them in back-to-back classes because you got Ebenezer Utade and Rodney Dunham last year. You've got to make a strong impression on him. There's a couple in-state kids coming on campus. There's a very talented 28 kid named Jackson Vaughn from he is actually from I think Bergen Catholic, which is where Steve Angeli was from. He was on campus this summer for Irish Invasion. Impressed me a lot. There's Richie Flanagan, who's the son of Jim Flanagan, played in Notre Dame, younger brother of James Flanagan, who's a freshman, who's a top 250 caliber D tackle from Wisconsin. And then here's 2 names to know, Sean. Braden Parks, who's from Brother Rice in Chicago, very talented player, 6'3", 300 pounds. He's going to be 310, 315 when it's all said and done. Absolute impact player. I grade him as a top 100 recruit. He's a must get. And then there's another kid, because you said big players coming this weekend. Devin Robertson, 6'1.5", 310 pounds. He's a stud from Mississippi. He was on campus at Irish Invasion this summer, as was Braden. They bonded a lot. Those are 2 must-get kids. One thing Al Washington's been very it's obvious he's looking for, he wants more beef up front.
Yeah.
That's why they got Tiki Ola, who's 6'3", almost 6'4", over 300 pounds. Braden Parks is 6'3", 295 to 300 pounds, and he's going to get bigger. Devin Robertson, 6'1.5", 6'2", 310 pounds. Those are beefy kids that give them the kind of bodies that he wants to add more of, but they're also athletic and talented. They're not just big. So it's a big weekend for him, literally and figuratively, up from the defensive line.
Yeah, no kidding. So, back in June when they had that big, I think it was when they had camp and they had all the, the prospects come in and all that kind of stuff. They did really well getting commitments after that. So, like a weekend like this to start off the season, do you expect we're going to hear some commitments in the near future, or is this more a long game, kind of where we are in the calendar right now?
It's possible, but I don't know that there's anyone that I would point to and say, yeah, that guy's going to commit. Like, they're definitely going to get that guy. And part of that's because it's such a high-level group of players. Like, some of these guys, like, look, man, you want to get Martian Sales, you want to get, DJ Jacobs, you want to get Xavier Hassan, you want to
Got a
get
lot of people.
Josh Dobson. Yeah, you're going to have to beat Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson. You're going to have to beat the Oregon. You're going to have to beat those big boys. That's going to take a while. You're hoping to get those guys this summer, but that's what the game visits were for. Like last year when they had Joey O'Brien on campus last summer, and they had, those guys. It was laying a foundation for getting them down the road. There are some players that I mentioned Xavier Hassan. I don't expect Xavier Hassan to commit this weekend at all, but I do think Notre Dame's like in a great position with him, where like maybe they could knock out of the park and convince him to commit. But one thing this staff does a good job of, Sean, that is new. One of the issues I had with Chad is he would try to coerce kids into committing and then say, hey, let's hold on to him. This staff is like, I'd rather wait 3 months and lose him than convince him to commit now, and then he flips in 3 months, and then you've kind of got that PR black eye. When they're ready, then they'll come. And you got to trust your process enough. And so while there are some kids who could commit, I don't know that there's any high-level players on the board that are going to commit, or at least coming into the weekend thinking they're going to commit. But sometimes the emotion of the energy of the game, the way it goes, they'll sometimes end up still popping. And so it's possible, but I don't know if any of those big-time kids are like, hey, I'm going to have a story ready for Monday morning, necessarily. It
Right.
could happen coming out of the visit, but I don't have those stories written right now, and sometimes I will.
Big weekend, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, home opener Saturday night, and like we said, it's going to be packed with Notre Dame official. These are official visits, right?
Unofficial.
They're unofficial. Okay.
For the 27 kids, yeah. And most of the 26
That's
kids,
right.
They're unofficial too, because a lot of them took their officials during the summer.
Okay.
So most of these are unofficial, yeah.
Big visitor list either way. More than 70 prospects coming into town with their families as well. It's going to be wall to wall tomorrow. Anything else we missed before we?
Well, the reason a lot of these are unofficial, Sean, is because they're now dealing with the junior class. The 27 class is the junior class, so they're not the rising seniors that used to dominate the visits during the season. It usually was like the current seniors that were going to sign that December and February. These are now underclassmen because Notre Dame is already done with their 26 class. This is another thing that it's allowed them to get ahead of the game and get younger players on campus to try to put together another elite class. And I think that's was a great strategy that you could have it, but the fact that they pulled it off to the way that they did with the 26 class is very impressive, and it sets them up for another great one at 27.
All right, we will see how it goes. We'll check back in with Bryan next week and see how this week goes, and look forward to the next recruiting weekend when Purdue comes to town next weekend. All right, you can check Bryan's stuff out, irishbreakdown.com, and you can find the Champions Lounge. Be a premium subscriber and get all the juicy inside details on whether it's recruiting, what's going on with the team, and all that kind of good stuff. Thanks, Bryan.
Take care.
You too. We will take a time out. When we come back, Vince DeDario will join me, and we will talk a little bit more specifically about the game Saturday night, Notre Dame and Texas A&M. Coming up next, Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with irishbreakdown.com. Rankin and rolling into the weekend. Now joined by Vince DeDario. I'm Sean Steyers. We've got Notre Dame, Texas A&M coming up. 7:30 Saturday night, home opener, Notre Dame Stadium. You'll hear the radio call here on Sports Radio WSBT and the Notre Dame Radio Network with Tony Simeone and Ryan Harris. Our game day coverage starts at 3 o'clock Eastern time, live from the linebacker. Tim Grell, Jim Irizarry, Eric Henson, Tyler Horka. They will all preview the game from 3 to 6:30 at the backer. This week's guests on the show include Frank Stams and Brian Flannery from the 88 National Championship team, Steve Orsini from the 77 Championship team, and this just in, straight from Tim himself, the grandchildren of former Notre Dame coach and one of the four horsemen, Elmer Layden. So that should be fun as well. So tune in, all new game day show, 3 to 6:30 tomorrow, leading into Notre Dame Radio Network's coverage right here on Sports Radio WSBT and the Sports Radio WSBT app. What's up, Vince?
Happy Friday to you, Sean Steyers. Ready to rock and
know.
roll into the weekend.
I know. Our friend Tommy Guns apparently booked a hotel room, and now the hotel is closed. And so he is desperately trying to find something. He is trying to get me a trade for some beverages for Jesse's old room. I got a shed out back on the back 40 of my house that you could stay in. Maybe Vince has got a little bit more room. I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's the last thing that we actually have at my house is more room, even minus a child. His room has already been spoken for by another child. So
wow.
Yeah.
Filling up fast, huh? No
That's
more
how that
room
goes.
at the DeDario Inn.
No.
I posted this earlier, Tommy. I don't know if you saw this, but you can also try, like, if you're not finding anything, because it's, it's a game day weekend, so
right.
all the rates go up. You can try Plymouth, Indiana, which is about 30 minutes south of town. Goshen is about 30 minutes to the southeast. Yeah, I'm going to make sure I have my directions right.
Yep.
Southeast of town. Warsaw's a little bit farther south, but but again, like if cost is a big thing, I would try those three. There's going to be some hotels. I don't know exactly, what the prices go for, but you might have a little better luck in terms of lower rates because they are a little bit outside town and a little bit off the beaten path. But again, it's like 30 minutes to an hour. Warsaw's maybe an hour-ish or so.
I was going to say, yeah, I would average an hour to get to Warsaw. We go there for some sporting events at the high school level. It's about an hour. So, yeah, but I would imagine that the prices will be lower an hour away.
Michael says Niles. I imagine they're pretty much going to be full because anyone who knows the area knows that you can jump on those right away. So, but, you can try. And there are a lot of others, but those – Plymouth and Goshen are going to be about your closest options. LaPorte isn't bad. Michigan City, there's a lot of options around the area. I think, they were saying that they were trying, Elkhart earlier. And again, I imagine
Elkhart's
a lot of those rooms, because like people were just saying, someone said earlier in the chat that Wrigley Field, the Cubs are playing over there today. And they said the stands are full of Texas A&M fans over there. So a lot of people do stay in Chicago. That's obviously going to have its own expense and be even farther away. But USMA 87 says he thinks he has a place in Elkhart. All right, well,
there you go.
Keep us updated. Those are your options. I was just throwing them out there because all this stuff was going on in the chat when Brian was on, and so I didn't want to interject in. But all right,
we can interject when it's you and me.
Yes,
we interject all the time.
That's right. That's exactly right. So let's get to some Notre Dame, Texas A&M, the game itself, and not worry about hopefully Tommy gets his hotel issues figured out. But Marcus Freeman was asked earlier this week if there's another step in the evolution of the offense from game 1 to game 2 for C.J. Carr, and here's what he said.
Yeah, I think we were very intentional about trying to protect the first-time starter early in the game, right? Let's give him – I was vocal about giving him easy reads, easy throws. Let's not just tell him to bomb the ball down the field every play, because he'll do that, right? If we allow him to, CJ will throw the ball down the field every single play. But he showed he's ready. He's capable. And as you saw as the game went on, we were able to take some more shots. And so, again, I still am a firm believer on shots are a response to being able to have positive run plays, right? We have to be able to run the football. And but we feel like, listen, CJ can execute the entire game plan, the entire playbook. He's a special player.
All right. I like how he talked about if you just let him bomb it all day, that's
That he will.
what he would do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You take the reins off, he's going to go. Yeah.
Uh-huh. How much do you think we could see Carr's game evolve from game 1 to game 2? Maybe also factoring in there is a week in between where they had some extra time to maybe look at some different things.
I think they're going to trust him a little bit more this week, because I think that Mike Elko is going to load the box and try to stop Notre Dame's run. I mean, why wouldn't he? That would be what I would do. And I think that the easy access throws, maybe you'll see that at the beginning, maybe you won't, but I think you're going to see more throws downfield, more throws at the medium level. I think you're going to see them open it up just a little bit more. And hopefully, as the weeks go on, they continue to open it up until he has the mastery of the playbook, whenever that happens. But no team has their entire playbook open to them in week 2. Like, that's not a thing. And so you would hope that CJ Carr is able to operate through the playbook as it stands right now. And that's what I would hope to see.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would just, after what they showed in the opener, and based on, we know that they're going to load up and try to stop the run because it wasn't a vertical offense against Miami. I would pump fake a screen and then
yeah, seriously,
somebody on a go route is what I would do. It's like, you don't have to be too complicated with it. Here's what's interesting. Texas A&M's defense has given up 8 gains of 20 plus yards in their first 2 games. That's against UT San Antonio and Utah State. 8, so an average of 4 per game of 20 plus yards. That's a lot against that kind of competition, Vince. And, I think that Mike Denbrock, Marcus Freeman, whatever the combination is, they have to be sitting there and saying, we're going to have some chances to make some plays. Because, in both of the games, A&M had an opposing receiver who had just 1 catch in the game, but it went for 34 plus yards. One was 34, one was 36 yards against each of the teams. And I'm just sitting here going, Elijah Burris, anyone? Like,
right.
Like it just feels like they can potentially dial up some specific things because of the fact that A&M is going to want to stop the run. And because of the fact that what Notre Dame showed and what CJ Carr showed in that Miami game is they didn't want to go downfield any more than they had to. So I think that Notre Dame can create some opportunities, and I think you just, you give him some easy looks and some easy reads, and I think that he can make A&M pay potentially tomorrow night.
Yeah, I completely agree. He's got the talent to do it. He wants to do it. He will make good reads. He might try to squeeze it into a small window. I mean, that's definitely possible, but I just feel like Texas A&M's defense is almost begging for Notre Dame to big play him enough to turn the tide in this game. So
I think so too.
I like it.
I think so too. Here's Freeman's scouting report on the other side of the ball, the Aggies offense.
They are a balanced offense, and they do some really good things in the run and the pass game. It's a different challenge than you saw week 1. I think for them, obviously they got a special quarterback, but it's still, their offensive line is as good as you'll see, with 5 returning starters and, some of the best individual talent up front that you're going to see all year. So we have to be able to stop the run, right? When that's something I've always said, you have to try to put offenses behind the sticks and get them into challenging situations for them. And hopefully you put them in a position where you feel like they're one-dimensional. And so it's going to start with stopping the run. We're going to have to be really good in the back end with our eye control, and then we're going to have to make plays in the pass game. It's something that we've been really challenging our group, that the ball's in the air, we got to go make plays. And that's the next step that this group's got to take. And so we got a couple more days to prepare, but it's going to be a great challenge.
Our next question.
Nope. I like the fact that came from the Zoom call. I like the fact that didn't quite get that cut off, did I? Yesterday, I was having trouble my internet has been funky all week at home. So like my audio, it like cut off a soundbite or two short. And so of course today
You
I didn't have
overcompensate.
the edit quite right. It went a little bit
Uh-huh.
long. So yeah. Yay. But I like the fact that he's talking about contesting those balls in the air.
Seriously.
Like that was an obvious thing against Miami.
Being aggressive, like all that is part and parcel with being aggressive. That's what everybody wants to see from this defense, is being aggressive, and part of that is attacking the ball in the air, going to get the ball, all of those things that they did not do against Miami on numerous occasions, to be honest with you. But obviously the one glaring one was the touchdown, but they were not aggressive at all. And that is one way to be aggressive, is attacking the football.
Absolutely. What do you think this game, what does it come down to for you with Notre Dame's defense in this matchup?
I know this is a generic answer, but it's being aggressive. That's honestly what it is. I've said this, last week. I don't care what scheme they run as long as they're being aggressive with it. And if you want to run zone, cool, but line your corners up man-to-man fashion up against the line of scrimmage and force these guys to earn everything that they get in the short passing game. Marcel Reed wants to throw short. He will chuck it deep every now and again, but he wants to make his hay throwing it short and scrambling, right? So you want to take that stuff away. You want to take away those easy access throws. You want to take all of that away. Again, I don't care whether you run zone or man. I'm not getting caught up in all of that, but start your corners up tight and then fall into what you need to fall into, but be aggressive doing it. Make their receivers earn it.
Yeah, see, and if you can test him, if you can test their receivers, I don't think that he can be nearly as accurate as Carson Beck with the short passes as Carson Beck was.
Agreed.
I think that is a big advantage for Notre Dame. But you can't just you can't just play off everybody. You have to be aggressive. Whether that means, we know that they're going to mix coverages throughout the day, whether that means, like man under type stuff where you've obviously got safety help, but you're letting your corners underneath play more man-to-man coverage and be physical with those guys. Whatever it happens to be, I don't think that Marcel Reed can come close to having the kind of night that Carson Beck had with those short passes trying to be accurate like that, especially since he does throw on the run so much. It's just, I think Notre Dame can make his life a heck of a lot tougher. And it comes down to that, just how, whether you want to call it aggressive, physical, whatever it is, Notre Dame just needs to be that on defense.
Honestly, they need to be that on both sides of the ball. I know we're talking about defense right now, but they need to be aggressive on the offensive line as well in order to be successful. So we just need to see a different football team come out, like from a mentality standpoint. They just weren't ready to play, in my opinion, and it never got better as the game went on. There's a little bit of a stretch there, I suppose, towards the end, but it was too late at that point. They need to be aggressive and, as Christopher said, violent. All of those things that needs to happen from the opening kick until the end of the game. You can't turn that on in the fourth quarter.
Nope. No, you can't. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour with more Notre Dame, Texas A&M talk. We've got kickoff tomorrow night at 7:30 coming up here on Sports Radio WSBT, as well as the Odyssey app, the Notre Dame Radio Network, AUDACY, Odyssey.com. We're back with more right after this. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with AverageBreakdown.com continues. .com, not .tom. Man, one of those days.
I mean, it's whatever you want it to be, Sean Stiers. It's your
suppose
world.
so.
We're just living in it.
I suppose so.
Yeah.
Jesse's got some new glasses. Are those new?
No, they're not new. They're just beat up.
He just. What was that all about? Were you checking your mic because you didn't know you had yourself muted 8 times yesterday? Is that what's going on?
Everyone's got jokes already today, I see.
Oh, and he's on edge already.
Oh, yes. This is the Jesse I like.
No one can give Jesse a hard time. We'll just give it to Vince then, because Justin in the YouTube chat says, I bet Vince wants to use a linebacker spy on Marcel Reed.
It's the last thing I want to do. The absolute last thing. I hate spies. I hate them. I hate them. What say you, Jesse? What is your thoughts on the spy as a linebacker? What you used to play linebacker? You are a linebacker. What do you think about the spy technique?
I think situationally it can be effective, but I don't think Notre Dame should be spying this weekend.
Fair
I think everything stays in front of them. I think you create pressure, you collapse the pocket, and you force Marcel Reed to step up. I was on yesterday's show. I was kind of talking about. I feel like Reed is a pass first guy these days. I don't think he's looking to just tuck the ball down and run. He's looking to play within the structure of the offense.
At least based on, I'm trying to figure out, watching those first 2 games, is that truly who he is, or is that just what they were trying to, to do to not show as much design stuff before the Notre Dame game? That's what I wonder. I think maybe it's more the latter, because it really felt like they wanted him to stay in the pocket as much as possible and not have to take off if he didn't need to. But because he's such a great athlete, he burned him a couple of times, especially last week.
Well, the thing is in a Colin Klein offense, he likes a mobile quarterback that can run the ball. So yeah. I think this Saturday you'll see some of those designed runs out of Marcel Reed, which probably they didn't use in the first 2 games for good reason.
Yeah. Marcus Freeman did his Zoom yesterday, his Zoom call with us. We played some of the comments yesterday, and we've had some today, obviously. But I felt like his general demeanor, it's like not quite surly, but maybe a little bit salty. He was very all business. It felt like. Do you guys think maybe there's anything we can read into that?
I hope his team is the same way. I mean, honestly,
surly.
Yeah, man. Like, look, chip on the shoulder. Like we said this last week. Like, I hate the fact that it took a loss last year to make this team that way, and apparently it's going to take a loss this year to make this team that way. I hate that that's the case, but I hope it is the case. I hope they're all salty. I hope they all have a chip on their shoulder tomorrow night when they come out, because that's when this team's at its best. No, not those kind of peanuts. I want them to have, for lack of a better term, a pissed off look in their eyes when they go to play football. Like, that's what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw somebody tweet, like the tunnel entrance from Texas A&M last year. Like,
that.
Do we need that Marcus Freeman again? Like, is it time to ratchet that up? Like, he was He was feeling a little intense, like you
Good.
staring the glares, like you could feel the glare a little bit coming through the Zoom camera, I thought, yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, they've had 2 weeks off. Obviously, there was a lot of, maybe criticism, whether you think that's fair or not. And it feels like Marcus Freeman is done answering questions. And, I mean, that's what it should be about. Like Vince talked about, this team should be playing pissed off. They are a team that's coming off a national championship and didn't play as well as they should have on the road in a big game to open the season.
I agree. I'm trying to see how much time we've got left here. We've got a little bit of time. I'm going to play this cut for Marcus Freeman. He was asked a little bit about special teams matchup in tomorrow's game.
It's I think one of the key factors is going to be the punt battle. Right, they have a big time punter with a big time leg. We have to try to affect them with our punt return unit, and the same thing goes for our punt unit. Right, they've shown to be aggressive. They've shown to do some different things on their punt return unit. That's going to be a challenge for us, and that battle with field position is going to be huge. You don't get many opportunities to really return the ball on kickoff. If we get the opportunity, we got to, really make it. We got to execute well, and we got to be able to, take the ball. And if we get the ball in our hands on KOR, we got to really do better than we did last week when we took the one out. So I think there's in all phases going to be a challenge. The same thing, our field goal block unit has to affect their field goal unit, and we got to be great in protection. So all phases of the special team has to be. We got to be superior.
Thought it was interesting. He started off talking about the punters, but like that could affect the game. It sounds like he's expecting a pretty good defense, similar game to last year, maybe defensive type slugfest. Let me ask you guys this though. They didn't use Jeremiah Love on kickoff returns against Miami. He is listed as the number 1 kickoff man on the depth chart again this week. Do you think they should put him back there against A&M tomorrow night?
I feel like it's one of those things where I don't think you're going to do any harm by putting Jeremiah Love back there. Whether or not you want to show your cards and go that route early on, I'm not sure, but I don't know the ultimate difference between him and Jadarian Price back there. I think both are dynamic runners. We saw, Price in the Miami game, but I'm all for getting my athletes, the most amount of touches as possible. And that's the thing that Marcus Freeman talks about with Jeremiah Love. And his, especially going into this season, like it was all, we need to get Jeremiah Love the ball as many times as possible. Well, you have him as the number 1 kick return guy, but then he didn't return any kicks against Miami. So if you're going to put him on the depth chart, I want to see him out there, and I want to see our most dynamic players touching the ball as many times as possible.
I would say that if you put Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love back there to return kicks, there's one thing you can guarantee will happen. They'll be starting the ball at the 25-yard line, because anybody that kicks to either one of those two needs to be fired on the spot, and it'll be a 25-yard and start every time, because they're going to kick it out of the back of the end zone and call it a day.
They can try, as long as
not that hard.
Sometimes the leg doesn't get it there, though, right?
They shouldn't have. Then that kid should be kicked off the team, because if you don't have the leg to kick it into the end zone, you shouldn't be playing college football.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
Like that's bottom line.
I mean, Jadarian Price can just as easily house it, but the question is,
completely agree.
It's not a question between Price and Love. It's a question between Love and Aeneas Williams, because that's who they had back there instead of Love last time. So if you've got Love and Price both back there, all it takes is one mistake. He gets under it just enough. I want my game changers back there.
Absolutely.
There's a reason Rocket returned kicks. There's a reason Tim Brown returned kicks. I want my best playmakers back there in a game this big, where you do expect field, the fact that he did lead off, talking about field position and punters and stuff like that. I want the guys, plural, who have the best chance to get me the ball in the best field position back there, and maybe a chance to break one, if you slip a couple tackles. So that's what I'm going with. Got just a little bit of time. Kingston Viliamu Asa. Do you guys buy or sell? He needs to play more than the 37 snaps he had against Miami.
What do the other guys have? Do you have that?
So
handy?
Drake Bowen, 58.
Okay.
Snead had 35. Osbury had 30.
So
I'm
he had the
good with
second
that.
most. He had the second most.
I'm not a fan of just running KVA out there just to run him out there. I think he's a very situational player. I think you can use him off the edge, and we talked about you're going to have to use your DNs to contain Marcel Reed. I think that's something he'd be really good at. He's a really good tackler in open space. He has the athleticism to keep up with Reed. So, I still think he struggles as a true Mike linebacker and making all of the correct reads, running a defense and all that stuff. So I don't want to overwhelm the guy, but I also want to use him as much as possible situationally to, really showcase his athleticism. And I thought that's what he did against Miami. He was fresh, and when he was on the field, he had his nose in about every play.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I would be okay with him having a few more snaps and maybe taking away a couple from some of the other guys, but that's the order that I would have had the linebackers in as far as snap count is concerned. Maybe not the gap, like I said, between 1 and then 2, 3, 4, like it was. But Drake Bowen should be out there the most, and then KVA, then Sneak. That's the way it should be. But maybe add a few more. I'd be okay with that. So I'll buy that. But it's right around where it needs to be. I agree with Jesse.
I think he's got some versatility, like Jesse said, to with the true reads, with the playing the mic. I think Bowen is still the answer there, but in terms of the ability to do some different things, and again, none of us are in favor of a full-time spy, but if there are times where maybe you decide, like it's 3rd and 10, and
He should be on the field every 3rd and long.
Right, 3rd and long type situations, He probably needs to be, because whether it's getting to the quarterback, spy, like a part-time spy or whatever, I think his athleticism kind of sets him apart with what he can do.
And we know that Notre Dame struggled with 3rd and long last week.
Right.
And so they need to get that figured out.
Yep, exactly. All right, Vince, I will see you next week.
That's true. Yes, you will.
Post-game show tomorrow night.
Post-game show tomorrow night. Make sure you tune in. We'll be going live as soon as the game is over, and we'll be taking into the wee hours. So make sure you check us out. We really appreciate it. And I'm off to high school football, gentlemen.
All right. Vince is checking out. Someone else is checking in when we start rapid fire here in just a few minutes.
Nice.
Bring out your air pistols or your finger pistols, whatever they happen to be. We'll take a timeout. Rapid fire, hour number 2. We're getting more into this Notre Dame Texas A&M matchup in rapid fire. That's coming up. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. There we go. I had multiple buttons I was pushing. I'm Sean Stiers. Jesse Stiers is here. Bobby Hensley bopping in the back door as well. And Bobby came just ready to make everybody happy today. He's got his Arizona State Sun Devils hat on and his Texas Longhorns sweatshirt. So, hold on. I gotta make sure I've got you. There we go.
Neither one's having a great year anyway, so it's fine. I'm not offending anybody.
It's only one loss. It's not that bad.
Well, it was a bad loss.
It is rapid fire time in hour number 2 of Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat. We'll just see if we can send this show completely off the rails with all three of us trying to get through this second hour between commercial breaks and 3 talking heads. You both got just wonderful facial hair that you've got going there as well.
Well, at least Jesse can probably grow it on top. That's the only place I can grow hair anymore.
All right, so tomorrow's game at Notre Dame will be game 3 for Texas A&M. It'll be Notre Dame's second game because of the week 2 bye the Irish had. I asked Marcus Freeman this week how different a week 2 bye is compared to if it was in, say, week 6 or 7 on down the road.
I think that the physical toll on your body is going to dictate a lot of how you practice. With us only having one game and you know, we needed to practice like at a high level. We needed volume. We needed the physicality to keep up with not having a game week 2 versus the rest of the college football world that is playing a game week 2. Now, as you talk, we got another bye week later in the season. We'll have to evaluate, okay, what does this team need after week 6 in terms of those 2 or 3 practices that you have during a bye week. You know, another thing that dictates is we played on a Sunday. And so, okay, so you give a Monday off, Tuesday, what do you want to do? Wednesday, Thursday, what do you want to do? As you look at the next bye week, it's going to be during fall break. And so all those things factor into what you do during your bye week. But, yeah, it's going to be different week 2 than it is definitely week 6 or 7.
All right, so a difference week 2 versus week 6 or 7. Jesse, how beneficial could this week 2 bye be for the Irish? Do you see it as beneficial?
Yeah, I think it's super beneficial because I think there were some things that happened in the Miami game that they needed to get out ahead of and address and really work on. I think a lot of it was the physicality that Marcus Freeman was talking about. And so you now know, as a player and as a coach, what needs to be brought to the table for practice, gearing up for this next important game on the schedule. So I liked his answer, and I think basically what he was getting at is it's situational. What they need in week 2 is going to be different than what they need in week 6 or week 7. I think week 6 or week 7 would be more about getting guys off their feet, rest and recovery. You're only one game in, and so this bye week was more meant on, fixing up technique, X's and O's type of stuff.
I agree. Jesse, I wonder what you think here, though. Would you rather have week 2 bye week or a week 2 where you play a lesser opponent that you don't have to worry about? So it's like a Division 2 game or something like that.
Yeah, I would much rather them played, like I wouldn't say like a MAC opponent.
No, even lower. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think to get a little bit of more confidence under their belt, but at the same time, that doesn't do anything good for you when you're going up against Texas A&M the next week, because it's just going to be a different level of speed, physicality, and that sort of stuff. So, while it'd been nice to get a win under their belt, I do think that I think this bye week was perfect, to be honest with you, because I do think it allowed them to really dive into what they need to get corrected for, again, what I would consider, if not the second most important, third most important game on the schedule this season.
I think you're right. I think it's a good time for it this year. And like they say, every year is kind of different, and they get the benefit of having 2 bye weeks. So you can kind of take the advantages for both of them. Getting a nice win is not like an easy win would be nice, but especially if it's not going to give you any in the rankings or anything, what's the point?
And I mean, the problem is this is the second year in a row where they've got 2 bye weeks just because of like the way things played out with how they were able to schedule everything. So I get your point, Bobby, where it's like, well, yeah, you'd rather be playing, but at the same time, from this week on, you still have 11 more opponents to go, so there's only so much you could schedule this. They were going to probably have to have a second bye week somewhere. I think what works out for Notre Dame is the things that Marcus Freeman was talking about it. So it's like, okay, we've got a game and now we know what we need to work on. So we can work on that behind closed doors. We don't have to show Texas A&M anything. And because it's only week 2 and you've only had one game, like Marcus Freeman was saying, we can still go out there and we can lay some wood on each other. We can work on live tackling. We can go one-on-one, good on good, as he says, first team against first team and that kind of stuff. And, again, Notre Dame has just one game on film right now. Texas A&M has 2 games. So I think that there is a little bit of a hidden advantage because that gave Notre Dame some extra time to sit back, watch Texas A&M for an extra game plan for that, what they see there, and they only had to show one game in the meantime. So I do think that there is a little bit of advantage of it that maybe, like coming into the season before any games had been played, I hadn't really kind of thought about it that way. But, like he said, you can be physical in week 2 when all you've had is one game so far.
Yeah, I think it helps them too because it wasn't like they were out to lunch and lost against Miami. They can probably fix a couple things in a bye week.
Yeah.
They're not making these big jumps. They're not overmatched. And then their second, like Jesse said, your second or third biggest game, however you want to describe it, is coming up next. So it's nice to work on some of those little things, get them out of the way, working them on a bye, like you said, Sean, and not have it be on tape. I think that could be very beneficial for the way this season worked out. If they'd beaten Miami and everything's good and everybody's healthy, you might want to go right into the next week and play Texas A&M. But
I think we'd be having a much different conversation had they won the Miami game,
right?
And I think that's what makes this bye week so interesting is it was after this week, and so what it becomes is highly dictated about how that Miami game was going to go.
Yeah, Stymie Snurdley in the YouTube chat says, I'd rather have a bye than a false sense of success and corrective action. And I think I agree with that as well, because like when I look at Texas A&M, I'm still trying to figure out just exactly how good they are. We know they're good to an extent, but because of the level of competition that they've played, they obviously have not been challenged in the same way, in 2 games, the way Notre Dame was challenged in their one game against Miami. One, they've both been home games. Notre Dame has played on the road, so they've had that, kind of adversity that they've had to go through. And the level of competition that they've seen just isn't that great. So, like, for me, I'm having a hard time figuring out just how good some of these guys are. I mean, they've got some good guys, some good athletes, but how that compares, against Utah State and UT San Antonio, I don't know quite yet. I think they've got a lot of that maybe false sense of security. But
and then like false sense of security, I mean, you're talking about a team that Notre Dame that lost to Northern Illinois last year. So that wasn't a bye week, but it snapped them out of playing bad football. And the rest of the year, they looked pretty damn good the rest of the slate. So I don't know what the right answer is. And like Jesse said, if you know the results, that helps a lot. You know where you could get better, when it would be a good time to have a break. But as a fan, it just sucks having a week off that early when you get all hyped for the first game.
And as a media,
go.
As someone who does a radio show every day, it sucks having a week off. Because we have dealt with, it's at least, after tomorrow, we get to turn the page, and the set of things that we'll be talking about next week will hopefully be different than what we've talked about the last couple of weeks, or do the issues linger? That's what's next for us. Scale of 1 to 10, how must win is Saturday's game for Notre Dame?
Yeah, I hate to be dramatic about this, but it's a 10 out of 10 going into the season. We talked about it. Obviously everyone wanted them to go 2-0. 1-1 is I wouldn't say acceptable, but it's better than 0-2. And 0-2 is definitely unacceptable because you're treading water at that point. So, coming off a national championship, all the talent that is on this roster, if you want to get back to your goals and to a playoff and another national championship appearance, you can't start the season 0-2 against the toughest teams on your schedule and put yourself that deep into a hole. So, again, it sucks I have to say this, but it is a 10 out of 10.
Well, Jesse, don't you think every Notre Dame game is 10 out of 10 you got to win?
Yeah, but like this one is
I
really up there.
No, I guess you need a little more narrative on with that question, because a 10 out of 10, you want to win every game. So what do you mean, like for their playoff hopes, or Sean, what do you mean, like by 10? Like what is it?
It means how must win is it?
Oh, it's 10 out of 10. If you don't have a 10, I don't know how anyone could justify anything 9 or below.
Are they just here playing exhibition games every week, or are they playing for something? They're trying to get to the college football playoff. You just went to the national championship game. So yeah, like in terms of the macro of this season for Notre Dame, if you lose, you're 0-2. And so like you talked about losing to NIU, it's still different being 1-1 with a bad loss to NIU than it is being 0-2, losing to two good teams and having the rest of your season in front of you and not knowing what's going to happen. It's still, because like once you fall to 0-2, there's no given that you're just going to win out the rest of those games. So there's your answer, Bobby.
Well, yeah, I understand what you're saying. I guess I mean, like, yeah, I think every game's a 10 out of 10, though. I don't know why you would go into one thinking, well, it's only a 9 out of 10 if they win this one, or 8. Like, it should always be a 10 out of 10. It's not a.
I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, last week or 2 weeks ago now, I don't think that was 10 out of 10 because you're on the road, first time starting quarterback, all that. I would have said Miami 7 or 8 out of 10 because you lose to Miami, which they did. There's still wiggle room after that. But now you've already lost to Miami, and it's this one. So I think it ratchets the importance of this game up a lot more now.
So do either of you think that if Notre Dame had beaten Miami, that this would be a 7 out of 10?
I would say that there's more room. Like, I agree. I get what you're saying, Bobby. Every game you're going in thinking, you got to win. But I think the question is largely based around implications for the rest of the season.
Right. What's on the line? What's on the line now? Yeah.
And I think that, again, no one wants to go 1-1, but 1-1 is manageable. 0-2 is not manageable. And if you win the rest of your games, all the talk is going to be, well, you lost to the teams that mattered and you beat who you should have beat.
Exactly.
And you're not in a conference and you're going to be on the fringe. A lot of people are going to be upset if Notre Dame gets let into the dance with their only 2 losses coming to potentially the best 2 opponents on the schedule.
If they lose this game, I'm not sure they'll be in the top 10 again.
No.
The rest of the season. Now, if they win out, maybe by the end of the season they've got a chance. But to what Jesse just talked about, the talk is still going to be, well, you lost to the only 2 real teams on your schedule. So that's going to be held against them. You didn't beat. Who did you beat?
Right. And that's the whole thing about all of this is SEC's had that for years. So like Alabama had a loss against Georgia. It just turns into at the end of the year, do you want to be sweating when it comes time for the playoff, like a selection Saturday or Sunday that we're used to for basketball, but with football? And if you don't have those data points where you beat the big teams, I don't know if there's enough left on the schedule for them to give a good, solid argument to make it.
We'll take a break. When we come back, we've got more rapid fire with an eye toward Saturday night's Notre Dame Texas A&M game with Bobby Hensley and Jesse Stiers. I am Sean Stiers. We've got more coming up next. We continue rapid fire. Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com. Sean Stiers, Jesse Stiers, Bobby Hensley. Fill in the blank. The thing you're most confident in with Notre Dame this week, Jesse, is blank.
An improved run game. I think that obviously they struggled against Miami. Not the numbers you want for a premier running back room in the country. Texas A&M lost a lot along the defensive line. 3 guys who went on to the NFL. That the run game is what ultimately won the game for them last year. I think CJ Carr is going to be situationally good, but they have to rely on the run game, and it has to get the job done. And I think it will get the job done.
I think that the thing I'm most confident in is the defense keeping them in the game. I don't think that there's any way that they're going to get Texas A&M is going to be explosive enough to get lots of points that's going to keep Notre Dame out. And then, like Jesse just said, they keep Carr in a situational mode where you don't want to say game manager, but it won't be on him to win it. And then it will turn to the running game and how successful they can be. But I would say I'm most confident on the defense to keep them in the game.
Interesting. All right, so we've got both sides of the ball. I'll break the tie. I like what Jesse's saying. I'm like J Love and or Jadarian Price. I'm confident that they're gonna, one of those guys or both of those guys is gonna house 1 or 2 if they get enough touches. I think that that's what it's going to come down to. They both made big plays last year. You know, like Price, as you know, we saw Price a couple of weeks ago make the big play when he came in for Jeremiah Love, but I just like, we know they didn't get enough touches against Miami, and this Texas A&M team is more vulnerable. What's that?
I said, don't fumble the ball. Am I right?
Well, that's exactly right. Hold on to the rock. That's for sure. This Texas A&M team is just much more vulnerable against the run, is what we've seen this season. Next, though, like the lines against Texas A&M's lines. You know, I realize that's a big question after watching the Miami game a couple of weeks ago, both lines of scrimmage. But I just, again, like going back to who Texas A&M has played so far, they've won. Give them credit. You know, like I'm not discrediting him for that. But just in terms of physicality in the trenches, like that Utah State game last week, and I know you watched it too, Jesse, I didn't come away from either of those going, man, Texas A&M is just mauling Utah State. You know, they're just manhandling them
their will.
physically. Yeah, and that's what you would expect a team like Texas A&M to be doing against a team of you know, like that level of competition. So I think that Notre Dame's lines are going to be much more physically impressive tomorrow night against the Aggies.
Outside of the third quarter, Utah State hung around in that game, especially early on.
Mm-hmm.
That basically kind of to end the second quarter and the beginning of the third quarter, they got themselves into a little bit of a hole, and were trying to play catch up, and that allowed the Texas A&M defense to start feasting a little bit and the offense to run away. But again, Utah State was able to get some stuff done against this Texas A&M defense, and if that's the case, Notre Dame should have no problem also racking up some yards. I don't think it's going to be quite as a defensive juggernaut as it was last year.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, what do you think from this Texas A&M team that you've seen so far then? Are they overhyped, overranked? Do you think they were playing down to their opponents?
I think there's a ton of athleticism on offense. I think the defense isn't as physical and as dynamic as it was last year, but they still have a lot of good skill players. I think Moss is a guy that you can't necessarily, you know, sleep on at the running back position, and I think Concepcion is a really good vertical threat on offense, and Marcel Reed is just an athlete at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I'm not saying they played down to their level of competition. I'm just saying I expect, especially when those are both home games for Texas A&M. To me, it's just a question. I think we're going to find out a lot more about them tomorrow night. I think we're going to find out more about Texas A&M even than Notre Dame.
And the thing is, too, is Notre Dame has played a team like Texas A&M. Texas A&M hasn't played a team like Notre Dame yet.
Exactly.
And they've been out there playing games, which we've talked about, so they might not be they might not be used to the speed, because that's what the advantage, as Jesse said earlier, to having a bye week instead of a weak opponent. So they might be a little bit worn down, a little bit acclimated to that slow speed of playing under their like a national caliber team.
So that's your biggest confidence. Your biggest concern this week is blank.
My biggest concern is Marcel Reed. Last year, Notre Dame had the luxury of playing Connor Wegman, when he was the starting quarterback. As the season progressed, they switched to Marcel Reed. I think Colin Klein is an excellent offensive coordinator. I think we haven't seen the full, dynamic ability or packages for Marcel Reed within this offense. There's going to be a lot of kind of, getting your eyes and body to move one way, but kind of coming back the other. And I think that's going to involve some quarterback run. I just think in this game, I think Notre Dame has the secondary and the defensive personnel to take care of the wide receiver core and the running back room. But to me, the guy who can really break you down and be an X factor is Marcel Reed. So that's what concerns me the most.
I don't know. This whole thing is a tricky question, because the concern is losing again. Like, you don't want to lose again. I am concerned about Jesse's confidence. I'm concerned about the running game. I know that they're athletes. I know that they're good, but the first game, I know it was a marquee opponent, and that's good. But then now if this game doesn't go well for the running game, you can't establish it. You're going to put the ball in a CJ Carr's hand more often. If it doesn't go well this game, then it sends a really bad message for the rest of the year that the running game might not be as prolific as we thought.
No, that's fair. And that couples
bad. You might as well just pack it up for this season.
Yeah.
Expectations.
Yeah. Because it's one thing to lose even a close competitive game. And I mean, I'm not saying that is acceptable, obviously, but it's one thing to lose that way. But it's another thing if you kind of get whipped around the way you were against Miami a couple of weeks ago. That's a completely different issue, and that's just going to be red flags everywhere, and it's going to be a what is this season, what happened this season kind of thing.
And you don't have any more bye weeks for a while to fix it.
Exactly. My biggest concern is Chris Ash's understanding of who his defense is. I know people don't want to see more zone against Texas A&M after what we saw against Miami. But with the dual threat guy, and we broke this down the other day on the show, with a dual threat guy like Marcel Reed, more zone is actually what, this opponent calls for this week. But that said, the Packers play a lot of zone defense too, and their defense has just been lights out through their first two games. Like, you can, just because you're playing zone doesn't mean it has to be soft and you can't be physical. Let the dogs hunt, turn them loose, let them be violent out there. That's what I'm looking for from Chris Ash's defense against Texas A&M, and that's what my concern is. It's just a legitimate concern right now because we don't know exactly what that is based on one game.
So if he lets the dogs loose, you'll be more confident next week. Make it your confidence instead of your.
If they win,
yeah, that's fair.
We'll see. Fill in the blank. It means blank that Texas A&M has not won a road night game since 2020.
It means nothing to me at the end of the day, because every game is a new game. I'm not a person who's going to get up here and be like, oh, well, they haven't done this and this and this. That's no team is exactly the same in a given year. The 2024 team is not the same as the 2025 Texas A&M team. Situations aren't the same. Just nothing is the same. And so everyone is 0-0 when you come into these games, in my opinion. All that, to me, that's just like superstition and that sort of stuff. Like, I just don't necessarily believe in those stats, to be honest with you. And the other thing is Mike Elko hasn't been the guy that's been the head coach in all of those situations. So, how he prepares his team is going to be different than coaches prior. So again, it's not like these players have been playing for 8 years and it's some mental block that they can't get over. It's a fresh team. It's a fresh roster. There's a ton of turnover. So again, it just doesn't mean anything to me. It's going to be a storyline. They're going to talk about it. It's just talking points, really, at the end of the day.
Well, you just stole all of my talking points because you even used the word I was going to use. I thought you'd go a different direction. I agree 100% with what you just said. It's about it means nothing. It kind of reminds me of like in the 90s and early 2000s when it was Notre Dame can't win the bowl game. It's like, well, these guys weren't here for all those other bowl
That was
games.
until 2 years ago.
But even then, it's like, I don't think this matchup today means, talking about the bowl game, meant anything from the year before. You get different players, and now bowl games are completely different. But exactly what Jesse said, these guys haven't been here for all of that. It doesn't matter. Every year's a new team. Every week is a new game. I'm exactly agreeing with you, Jesse. I don't think there's anything to be said.
We're unanimous. We're unanimous on this. I think we're all in agreement. I just wanted to see if anyone else. We're all lock sync in this. It's just a random stat. It stretches 7 games since 2020. Then, as you guys said, multiple head coaches. So it is, as John Christophic says in the chat, maybe a little bit shocking, but at the same time, it really doesn't mean much of anything because they've still won road games. They've just lost the ones that happen to be at night,
which are usually marquee games against better opponents. So of course, I think if anybody's record on those won't be as high.
So it does mean something.
No,
no. You just said it meant something.
No, I'm saying the only thing it means is they're playing a tough team.
Marquee games, better opponents. There you go. So they've lost all the big games on the road at night.
Yep, because but that doesn't mean that anyway.
Okay.
That's all it means. It means it's scheduling.
Love it when I can hook Bobby in the net there.
Yeah.
Texas A&M's longest run against the Irish last year was 14 yards by Le'Veon Moss. Miami's longest run against the Irish in week 1 was 15 yards. On a scale of 1 to 10, what's your confidence Texas A&M will not have a run longer than 15 yards against the Irish?
I'm going to give this a solid 8 out of 10. I think that Notre Dame is really good about limiting the big plays on the ground. And if you would have asked me this question about I think Marcel Reed has a bigger chance to have that 15-yard run than someone like Le'Veon Moss does. I mean, Notre Dame has really good linebackers. And that's the thing, too, is like they have good linebackers, but they have, all things considered, their players in the secondary are good tacklers. It's not like corners or free safeties who are afraid to get their nose in there and make a tackle. Like, their guys in the secondaries are dudes when it comes to tackling. And Don Schuler coming down on strong safety, I know he likes to try to lay some hits. It's just, to me, this is going to be a matter of wrapping up. There just can't be missed tackles or broken tackles. I think Notre Dame will be there assignment-wise, but these type of plays will happen if there's a breakdown in tackling technique, in my opinion. It's not going to be a guy just busting out, a free run 50 yards down the field. It's going to be because he ran through some arm tackles.
So would you go online gambling and bet the under on this with heavy money?
The Texas A&M under or just overall under?
Just them not having a play over 15 yards.
Nah,
running play.
I don't know. I got burned pretty hard by Notre Dame in week 1. So.
Yeah. No. So I'm saying that's why I'm only going to give this a 4. Because as you said, it's kind of one slip tackle, and then and maybe, who knows, maybe they do a draw play at the end of the half, and they could get above 15, 16 yards just on garbage time stuff. So I don't feel super confident in the ability to definitely say that it will not happen on the over there.
Yeah, Reed is the guy. Marcel Reed, of course, is the guy who worries me because all it takes is one breakdown, kind of to Bobby's point there, and the next thing you know, he's 25 yards downfield. Like 1 3rd and long, and someone misses their assignment, and whoop, there he goes. But again, that goes back to why Notre Dame needs to be able to play so much zone so that there aren't all those vacant spaces for him to run to, like Jalen Hurts did in the season opener against the Cowboys last week. But Texas A&M, they're averaging 5 yards per carry. Like that's through 2 games against UTSA and Utah State. And honestly, again, this goes to what I've been saying about who is this team. I honestly would have thought that number would have been closer to 6 or 7 per carry against teams like that, But again, all it takes is 1. So my confidence number, I put it at about a 7.5 is where I put it. Their longest run of the season is 30 yards by their number 2 running back, Reuben Owens, against UTSA. So my confidence level, 7.5, that Notre Dame will keep them under a 15-yard run as their longest.
I can't wait to send you a text when they get that 16-yard run right before the half.
There it goes. There it goes. That's right. I'm not putting any money on that, though. Miami's 2 longest plays of the night against Notre Dame were the 28-yard touchdown pass to Malik Tony and the 20-yard catch by C.J. Daniels. Over under 2.5 explosive pass plays the Irish will give up against Texas A&M.
I'm going to go under, and I hate these kind of questions because I always feel like someone's going to rewatch this show and come back and be like, you idiot, why did you say
your face?
Yeah, but I really do believe that, Notre Dame's overall game plan is, again, not to belabor the point, but a lot of zone, keep things in front, limit the big plays downfield, and make Marcel Reed pick them apart underneath. And so it's if Texas A&M is going to have a lot of success and move the ball consistently, it's going to be like you said, like very similar to what Jalen Hurts did to the Cowboys. It's just a lot of underneath stuff, 6, 7, 8 yards over the middle of the field, and just kind of go play by play by play, because Notre Dame wants you to fall into the trap or take the bait and start launching the ball downfield and really challenge their good corners and safeties, because they're going to end up with a turnover at some point. And that's the thing, is Marcel Reed is not this super experienced, polished quarterback who can just throw the ball all over the place like Carson Beck can. And so they're going to try to trick him, and they're going to try to bait him to throw the ball downfield and take that kind of, home run ball, when the little stuff over the middle underneath is probably going to be there predominantly for the whole game.
So you're saying that the best method is for them in a perfect world is the bend, don't break kind of, like let them
100%
here and there, but not.
Right.
And then when you get down to the red zone, hunker down and just field goals. I'm okay with, if Texas A&M wants to move the ball a little bit, get the ball underneath, that's fine, but it just can't result to touchdowns.
Yeah, and again, I don't
give up the big bombs over the top for touchdowns.
Exactly. Mario Craver had a 72-yarder last week against Utah State. He's their primary slot guy, and then after that, their longest pass play is a 34-yard reception. So like they've hit some, they want to hit it deep, and again, like I'm just not confident to, like what you're talking about, making them have to be patient and move the ball like that. The key that Marcus Freeman talked about is the running game. If Notre Dame can be stout against the run, and again, they only gave up a little over 3 yards per carry against Miami. If they can be stout against the run, including keeping Marcel Reed in check, then I think that they'll be fine, because I don't think that they can win. Texas A&M can win by the little dink and dunk against Notre Dame's defense. But the question is about explosive pass plays, and the over-under was 2.5 explosive. I'm going to go under. They might hit a couple. I think 2 is going to be their limit in terms of explosive pass plays, though, against the Irish.
Well, I think we're all, again, agreeing, because I say under as well. And that's why the dink and dunk will help them get down the field. But if you get a couple incompletions during that process, now you're almost behind the down and distance for dink and dunk to work, which now we're talking about game more than we are this particular question, which is what you wanted. You wanted us to go off the rails, Sean. But I'd say under, because I think, like Jesse said, if they're going to start pushing the ball down the field, there's going to be more mistakes. And they might be explosive, but they're going to be explosive for Notre Dame to get that turnover.
Last time out, then we'll come back with some game props for Notre Dame and Texas A&M, both player and the actual game itself. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. I like how Jesse gives hand signals coming out of the break.
That was for Naomi.
Oh, okay. Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com. Sean
least-
Stires, Jesse Stires, Bobby Hensley.
At least they're polite hand signals.
I
Could do
know.
worse.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Tommy Guns, congratulations on finding your motel room. By the way, he said it's. I think he said it was a rat hole.
With beds.
Take pictures and post them in the chat next week because I don't know if it could be worse than the one that Jesse and our boy Sluggo stayed in when we were in Council Bluffs for the College World Series a few years back.
Yeah, that should be.
How about a hair with your pillow?
Was that the worst part?
No.
I felt like I was in a jail cell.
I feel like everybody's got that one bad hotel story. And for me, it's like, that's well paid. A little bit extra.
I slept on the floor the last night.
Yeah, if you paid extra at this one, you might have been getting something else. I don't know. So.
Oh, wow. I didn't know Sean was doing side work.
Tommy said he had to get new sheets for the bed. That's what we could have used in
we could have used a lot of stuff in there.
Tommy wants to know where we're meeting up for our swap of where, he's bringing some cold beverages for me. I do expect it to be on ice, just so we, get our expectations out of the way up front. I'm kidding, but
we are sponsored by Budweiser, right?
Where is the Knights of Columbus steak sandwich place? I can't remember where. It's been so long since I've been there. I can't remember which one it's in. Someone in the chat on YouTube, tell me where, maybe we can meet up there because I would like to get a Knights of Columbus steak sandwich because it's been so long. I'll have to take some. Do they take card, by the way, if anyone knows? I don't know.
It's 2025.
You would hope so.
Yeah.
Let's do some game props. Notre Dame -6.5. Over under is 50.5. Do you want to just get your predictions out of the way before we run out of time here in about 4 minutes?
This is hard. I don't want to touch that 6.5 point spread with a 10-foot pole. Like that just smells trappy to me. I think Notre Dame wins this game. See, the thing is I'm going to give a score prediction that shows Notre Dame is going to cover that 6.5, but that still doesn't really mean I actually believe it at the end of the day. So it's like, it's so hard. I'm going to contradict myself. I wouldn't take the 6.5 point spread, but I feel like Notre Dame ends up winning this game like 27-17, I think is kind of where the ballpark I'm at.
Okay.
But it very easily could be, 27-21, 27-23 kind of area. Yeah, I think Notre Dame wins this game. I don't know exactly how they're going to do it. I mean, I know they're going to do it on the backs of their running backs. But I don't know. And you guys are going to make fun of me. I forgot this was a night game, to be honest with you. I was like looking all over. I have things to do.
Okay, wrap
tomorrow.
it up. We got other props to hit here.
I guess the prop that I'm kind of intrigued now because you put the score out there or whatever. What's your confidence in your own score? Because it feels like a 3.
Yeah, I put my confidence at 5 out of 10, but that they win 9 out of 10.
Okay, I'm going Notre Dame 27-20. That covers the 6.5. Bobby, quick.
I was gonna say 28-20. So
okay, we've only got a couple minutes here. So again, CJ Carr's passing number 205.5 yards. Over under.
Under.
Marcel Reed 33.5 rushing yards. Over under.
Under.
Over.
I'm going over. I'm also over on Carr's passing yards. I forgot to mention that. Which of these Irish receivers are you most confident will go over? Faison 37.5, Raridan 44.5, Malachi Fields 40.5, Greathouse 28.5. Who you most confident goes over?
Greathouse.
Greathouse 28.5. Really? After the week he had last week.
Bounce back.
I want you to parlay me Greathouse over, Love over, Price over, Love
That's not
touchdown,
happening.
Price touchdown.
Your parlays always miss.
That's not true.
We're not throwing money away again.
Yeah, the Greathouse, the number is so low too. If he has a little bit of a bounce back week, has a couple good plays, he's already there.
I'm going Fields. I like the over on 40.5. I think he's going to be their main guy out there. Okay, we got about a minute left. Jeremiah Love's rushing number 76.5. Jadarian Price is 42.5. Do you guys
Both over?
You like over on both? So do I.
I like over for Price, under for Love. I don't know. I just get a feeling. I think I took the under last time on Love, but until he establishes it, I need to see it happen.
One of them's going over 100 yards. I'll tell you that. So I'm going to go over on both of them. I think Love goes off tomorrow.
And Carr. So you just think they're getting a lot of yards.
I'm calling my shots right here. I do think that they'll. Well, 205. That's not a whole lot. All right. Well, we're going to have to wrap it up with that. We have made our score predictions. Someone said close to the South Dining Hall for the steak sandwiches for the Knights of Columbus. I'll just have to Google it and find it later. Tommy, I will have to find you out there. If we can meet up, Tommy, if we can work out a time by the Knights of Columbus steak, steak and a beer, I think that's always a good call.
Sean will be there at 5 a.m.
That's right. We will do that. Bobby Hensley, enjoyed it as always. Jesse Stiers, I enjoyed it as well.
I didn't.
I'm glad that you know now what time the game is tomorrow, so you know when to be watching and texting. No,
you have all day to set up your parlays.
That's right. Everybody,
not in Ohio.
Have a great weekend. Enjoy the game. Big recruiting weekend. We'll talk to you Monday. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com.